Welcome to Beyond the Huddle, a Central Arkansas FCA podcast where faith meets competition. Join host Josh Adair and Zach Rose as they dive into real stories from athletes, coaches, and leaders making an eternal impact through sports. Each episode brings powerful conversations on faith, leadership, and living boldly for Christ in every field of play and walk of life. This is Beyond the Huddle.
Welcome to the Central Arkansas FCA podcast, Beyond the Huddle. We are so glad that you're here, a place where faith meets competition, a chance to dive deeper into the lives of coaches and athletes and youth pastors and pastors and those who get to serve in our ministry. We're super excited for our guests today to talk about current ministry models and their involvement with FCA and the impact that it's made on their lives and all those things. So, from the onset, I just want to say, if you're interested and you're looking to get involved with Fellowship of Christian Athletes, there's two main ways, two websites that you can access to leave us your information so that we can get in touch with you. If you go to centralarkfca.org, that's for all of our Central Arkansas area. From whoever's listening to this in Central Arkansas, you want to get plugged in. We'll get you partnered with people in Conway or Cabot or here in Central Arkansas, here in Little Rock or in Saline County, Grant, Jefferson County. We can do all of those through that one website and get you to the right person so they can contact you. Or the website that we manage for Central Arkansas East, which is Lone Oak, Pulaski, Prairie, Monroe, and Arkansas counties, is caefca.org. And click Get Involved or contact us. And we'd love to partner you with the campus that you're interested in, how we can pair together the training that's involved to get you involved on campus and know how we operate and background checks and all that fun stuff, because we want to protect our students, we want to protect our athletes, and protect our volunteers and do all those things. So with that said, we're super excited to have one of my oldest friends in ministry here in Cabot, Jared Guinn, here with us today. Jared, I'll give a brief introduction. He can fill in the rest. Tell me if I'm wrong.
Sounds great.
Yeah, it'd be great. We do that from time to time anyway. Jared serves on staff at the Vine Cabot as a youth pastor. He also is on our board, our leadership board in FCA have been for a number of years. He comes with me with ministry ideas of things. Hey, why don't we try this? Why don't we not try that? And just try to keep us all on the same page. He also is a Huddle leader or a Huddle sponsor leader in Cabot at probably one of the largest Huddle meetings that we have in all of Central Arkansas. We're going to unpack that and talk about how all that looks. So, Jared, welcome. I'll let you introduce yourself, your family, and what we need to know about you in ministry.
Gotcha. Jared Guinn. First of all, thank you for letting me join today. I'm excited to tell some stories of how God's interacted at FCA since seventh grade in my life.
Wow.
So my wife, Bailey, she's an elementary teacher. We have four kiddos. One's in ninth grade, one's in fifth, and I have twins that are in kindergarten. They are always excited and adventurous around our house, lots of things happening. But it's kind of cool. One of the things I'm excited to talk about today is I have a student that's an FCA, so I'm an FCA parent. I've also used to be a coach, so I went through and dealt with FCA as a coach and a teacher. Right now, I'm on the board. I'm also a student pastor in town. I was also active in FCA in school growing up. I'm a college athlete. There's lots of different aspects of my FCA journey, how God's been working through that. So I'm excited to, like I said, kind of unpack that and tell lots of different stories.
Yeah, I'm excited too. And it's the whole point of this podcast is just tell people stories or faith stories and how they're all intertwined through a ministry that we were blessed to be able to operate in. And feel called to support people like Jared in our community. And then it's a two-way street and to make heaven crowded. So that's what we are all about. So, Jared, let's just start off. Basically, you are a student pastor. It's how we got to know each other because I was a student pastor. You're a student pastor. So
right.
Let's go down that road and then we'll get into before student. Well, this may take care of it.
Okay.
Talk about your calling to ministry. How did you feel called to ministry and end up in the student ministry lane?
All right. So starting back in high school, I got involved in FCA 7th grade, one day I was in the courtyard and one of my coaches walked by. I was like, hey, we have a meeting in the gym. I was like, all right, let's go. So I walked into the gym.
That's all he said.
That's all he said. So
we have a meeting in the gym.
I was like, all right, sounds great. So I walked in there. Now
he didn't tell what type of meeting it was?
No, he didn't. But also his older daughter, his older daughter is best friends with my older sister. So like I knew him really well, and his daughter was one of my best friends.
Okay.
So very close family friends. I was like, all right, sounds great. So I just walked in and we started having an FCA meeting. So I just kind of started from there. High school, I got chosen as a sophomore to be president of our FCA group. We started doing a house huddle, which I'd love to tell you about that later on. And then from there, I was like, all right, I want to be a teacher and a coach so I can do ministry like all these other coaches, Coach Orr, Coach Welch, that making big major differences in my life as coaches. I want to do the same thing. So I went to college, and from there did a little bit of college ministry stuff. Our college didn't have FCA, but as soon as I graduated, I became a teacher and a coach, got involved in FCA on campus. And my second year of teaching and coaching, I just felt off when I was at practice. I didn't want to be there as much, but I was also being active in, volunteer roles at the church. And I went to a Christian camp called Chrysalis several times throughout my mid-20s. And God just started calling me. He's like, hey, something's changing. I got plans for you.
Chrysalis, like butterflies?
Yes. Yeah. So you go in as like a caterpillar, and while you're at the camp, you go through your chrysalis cocoon phase. And when you leave, you're a butterfly. A little bit cheesy, but it fits.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It's pretty cool.
Thanks for clarifying.
Absolutely. Welcome. And so while I was there, I was like, all right, God, like, what is next? And so people started saying, hey, maybe you should do this all the time. You're great connecting with the kids. You already know how to be a teacher. And that was kind of summer 2014. And then Christmas break 2014, rolling into January 2015, I was doing another Chrysalis church camp over the winter break. And God's like, all right, this is it. Like, I am calling you. You're done with teaching and coaching. I was like, great, make it happen, God. So after that prayer, I kind of walked out of the room, and one of my fellow buddies as a pastor said, hey, I'm gone in 2 weeks on vacation. Can you preach at our church? Sure. So I'm driving to Russellville 2 weeks later. And then things just started unraveling very, very quickly. One of my buddies that also was at that Chrysalis camp said, hey, we have an opening for a youth minister job in Searcy. You want to come interview? I said, sure. So I interviewed, and then there I was 4 months later, done with teaching, kind of put that to the side and started becoming a full-time youth minister.
Wow.
So that was my calling in the ministry. So that's part of it.
So how many years total have you served as a student pastor now?
So 2015 is when I started, June. So I guess I just completed 10 years.
10 years.
Yeah.
Decade.
Yes. It's exciting.
Has it gone by fast?
No. It's
No?
not. No, I don't
Come
think
on,
so. No, I don't think so. A couple of moves and, 4 kids and just all different kinds of things have happened since then.
Yeah.
So I remember when I first started, and I remember now, but no, I don't feel like it's been quick.
Yeah. I remember student ministry. There's some days that felt like they went on really slowly, and other years it went by really fast. I don't even remember how it happened, but yeah. There's seasons. It comes and goes and ebbs and flows, but you're still in it, and you haven't walked away, and
loving it.
Faithful to pursue it, and that's great. So you mentioned I remember first coming on staff in FCA, and you pitched an idea to me. Jared and I have a similar background. We like to read books, and we like to be challenged. And we like Mark Batterson books. And Chase the Lion is a book that we quote to each other very often back and forth, chasing God-sized dreams and trying new things and taking ground for God here on earth to try. And if it works, great. If not, at least we tried, and we were faithful to pursue it and go. One of my first, I think I'm right. we decided that we were going to do was it a bench press competition?
Yes. Big press.
Your idea.
Yes.
Stealing it from, or borrowing the idea from Saline County.
Right. When I saw it when I was a coach.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we went down the avenue. Saline County does an event called Big Press, and it's an opportunity to invite football teams in to do a bench press competition inside of a church to spread the gospel. We thought we could try to pull that off, what that would look like. We did the work. We made a logo. We invited somebody to come in and speak, and did school assemblies around all that, and then it didn't happen.
Yep.
Or we pivoted because there was a powerlifting meet at the same time.
Right.
That everyone else was going to. So we pivoted and went, and but we're not afraid to take a risk.
True.
So how else have you seen not being afraid to take a risk for the kingdom play out in your life? Because a lot of times people they get this idea, or it's a Holy Spirit moment, or they get to the point where they're like, I don't know that I can do that, or they chicken out's not the right word, but maybe it is. They are not bold enough in their faith to follow through with the plan that God has before them because it requires too much faith.
Right.
How have you seen that played out in your life?
Oh, man. I think I'm a backtrack to high school.
Yeah.
So if any student athletes are listening, I think this is a key time to listen up. So when I was senior in high school, I was.
Where did you go to high school?
Sheridan High School.
Okay. And
my junior year, got all-state in football, linebacker, several colleges looking at me. I had great grades, which helped. We'll get there in a little bit. But it was one of those things where, like, all right, you're all-state your junior year. You're small, but you're really smart. Let's see how you do your senior year, and then we'll finish some conversations. Playing against Lake Hamilton, my fourth game, tore my ACL, and I thought everything was done. Started going from straight A's in school, started getting A's, B's. Started pushing C's and lower. Had some intervention moments with my teachers and helped me out through that. But, in that moment, I kind of lost all those football scholarships, and I thought who I was just gone. And thankfully, there was 2 colleges that said, hey, we still think you're worth something. We want to give you a chance. And one of those was Harding University. And going to Harding, it was a private school, so it was all right, what scholarships can you find out there besides us? Like, they offered some, but like my mom and I just got after applying for scholarships. And I still remember the night, my parents and I had the conversation, and I said, hey, I really feel like Harding's place for me to be. Like, it's a Christian place. The coaches are Christian. They do prayers. Like, this is who I want to be around. And we looked at the sheet of how much it costs and where we're at. And it was like, right now, there's no way this is going to happen. So we took a risk and said, all right, we're just going to do everything we can, apply for every scholarship. And we walked away, me not having to pay for college. So that was taking a risk.
Wow.
And there's lots of fruit that came from me being at Harding. I became a science teacher that was a Christian, and that was by itself a rare situation. And that was really cool. Be a high school science teacher with a Christian background, it becomes difficult to talk about your faith in the classroom. Mm-hmm. But the students, would ask, like, well, what did Harding say about this class, or what are some theories on these different things? And so I could give some opinions of what I learned through higher education without giving my direct opinion about things. So it turned into a lot of great conversations.
So this was not a planned question. So how has science come up in your teaching as a student pastor?
Ooh, that's a good one. So there's a lot of students, not a lot. There's some students that only see black and white. Gray is very difficult. When the Holy Spirit and understanding the Trinity and different things, there's some gray in that. You can just say, hey, just have faith and believe in this. But if they're struggling with having something very abstract and concrete, sometimes having that little bit of science background can give them those facts they're looking for. When I was a sophomore in college, I started doubting my own faith. At that time at Harding, I was taking a class about evolution. I was taking a class about astronomy, meteorology. So we're talking about the age of the earth, the universe, where did we come from, species, like all these different things at once. And one of the things Harding does well is each of my classes, I remember they took about 2 weeks out of their curriculum and said, hey, let's talk about how our faith fits into this exact science. So during that process, I was asking 1,000 questions, but what made the biggest difference was one of my professors gave me the book from Lee Strobel, Case for Christ, which then turned into another book called Case for Creator.
Yep.
And a lot of those had evidence, and Case for Creator had a lot of science based into it. So that actually helped bring me back to saying I have a firm faith in God. So science, in a lot of ways, solidified what I was already learning, like the periodic table. That's really cool stuff. Like, it's so set.
All you kids in chemistry, like my daughter Addison, pay attention.
Yeah. I mean, like the periodic table, like it's just so beautifully set. You're like that's someone created this. It just didn't fall into place.
Right.
And so as a student pastor, when I have the students come up and ask those questions, we can dive in deep. I'm not afraid, talk about physics, talk about anatomy, physiology, and those questions, and just
I wasn't sure if your illustrations, your analogies that you've had in scripture or put in practical terms lend more towards the science side, or in my mind, it seemed like it would, because it's kind of your natural bent and your education coming out.
Yeah. It helps a lot with metaphors.
Oh, yeah.
So unless they don't know the science, I'm like, never mind. We'll have a discussion about something else.
Another book that you may not know about, when I was in seminary and learning to be a student pastor and student ministry training, there's a book called Science Discovers God by Ariel Roth.
Okay.
And everything that you've just talked about is inside that book.
Awesome.
And people who are super smart trying to disprove science or try to disprove religion or disprove God and creator of the world and everything, but through their scientific method and research has come to find God, the master creator, through everything.
Awesome. I haven't read it.
Yeah, really cool. It's a different level. It's a different style. Some people are good for it, some people not, but really, really cool. Really, really good. I was on my walk this morning and was up before the sun came up, which is rare in my world. Trying to do new things and be new school year and all that. And we were walking, and I was walking with my wife Nelica, and we looked up. And I was like, "Oh, there's some planets." And she's like, "What are you talking about?" So, there was 4 planets actually. There was
awesome.
Mercury and Venus and Jupiter and Uranus, all up in the sky. And just to see those and walk early in the morning and be like, where are those planets all the other time, and how are they here? And we had, just some fun conversations that husband and wives normally don't have. So, and you said you took the class, so it made me think about that this morning. So I knew I'd get to talk to somebody about that today. Just didn't imagine that would be you. So, you've had, I think it would be fair to say that you've had 2 different callings in your life. We tell coaches all the time on campus that there is a calling to be a coach.
Yes.
They surrender to a calling to coach. Some people think that it's just a good idea that they go and do and that they're going to make tons of money. Wrong. Coaches don't get in it for the money. They get in for the impact. And the people who make impact, they have the opportunity to impact others, follow a calling that God has placed on their lives, or sometimes they don't even know that it's God's placed on their lives, but they surrender to it, they give into it, they buy into it. So you've had a calling to coach and a calling to ministry. How have you, what would you say to the people listening that are not a coach and are not in full-time ministry about how to discern whether God may be calling them one way or the other? How to discern a calling in their life?
Ooh, man. That's a great question. So through the process of, talking about risky, or taking a risk on our faith, like me going from coaching into ministry was one of those huge risks, because I gave up retirement, gave up all the insurance, for who knows what was going to happen next. So one of my big mentors, his name is Mark Dollar, back in the day, he gave me some advice of, hey, go whichever decision can give the most fruit or even give you the most peace. Even if you don't think it's the wisest decision, which one are you all right, I have this piece. I think I need to move on with it. Now, of course, you still need a plan of how to plan your finances or do different things, or you can ask advice from different people. But my biggest thing about discernment into ministry would have to be, at the end of the day, I think when you pray about it, you ask for counsel and listen to other people, Because sometimes you will not have peace, but if every single one of your 10 buddies are telling you to do the same thing, maybe there's something to that.
Mm-hmm.
So ask for advice and seek peace.
That's good. Ask for advice and seek peace.
Yeah, I'm going to throw you another curveball.
Come on.
So you mentioned my discernment of coaching, going into ministry. Well, I think you can actually stay in ministry and combine them. Like, I'm also a personal trainer now, so I really haven't stopped coaching.
Yeah.
I've done that for 13 years. Coach for 3, done ministry full-time at church for 10, and now those kind of combined. So I think sometimes when God's calling you to do ministry, he's not calling you to do a full-time pastor. He's saying, hey, you have a part-time job for the next 13 years. And honestly, I feel like me being a personal trainer has brought more people to church on a regular basis, or more people to Christ, and I've been able to have more serious conversations in the weight room than I've even had in the church with my youth groups.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah. So don't shy away thinking it's a discernment and the calling is ministry or coaching. Sometimes there's something in between, and sometimes you got to find what that in between is.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer that everybody's job in the church is to be a missionary when you're not on church grounds. He calls us to be sent, to live sent, to the jobs and the abilities and the things that God uses to give us income are the examples of Jesus that we need to use in the world around us. So don't wait on your pastor. Don't wait on your youth pastor. Don't wait on your Sunday school teacher, your small group leader, whoever it is, to come tell Jesus to your friends. It's your job, because you have the relationship with them. God's allowed you to have a relationship with those people for a certain reason, for a certain time, to receive encouragement from you. So charge ahead and know that he's already gone before you in the relationships that you have with that boss that's hard to deal with, or that coworker who gets on your nerve, or the custodian person who likes everything cleaned a certain way that gets on your nerves. It's your opportunity to share grace and compassion and love and forgiveness to everybody that God puts in your path. And it's your job, if you're a believer in Jesus, to build bridges as ways to lead them to Jesus, to have gospel conversations with them. Like Jared's saying, some of us are called specifically to a certain job, a certain opportunity, but through everything we do, we have the opportunity to lead people to Jesus. I think all too often, for whatever reason, inside of local churches, we have well-meaning, have great intentions to do stuff, but we don't do it throughout the week. And I've seen it in my life. I would come back and feel so beat up that I didn't do what I felt like God asked me to do the week before. And I would become paralyzed and feel like I'm not worth it. I'm not good enough. I can't do anything. Well, that's a lie that Satan wants you to believe. And we buy into that lie, and we feel like that's who we are. And God feels the same way about us that Satan wants us to believe. And that's not the truth. And we do that with a lot with teenagers who are trying to figure out freedom and consequences and boundaries and all the things and the decisions that they make in their life. They think, if I'm too far gone, God can't save me. God can't do anything with me. It's just like we were in Bible study this morning and doing Discovery Bible Study, which we'll talk about in a minute, because you're going to be branching off into that in Huddle ministry. And at the end, where it talks about your I will statement, who will you tell this story to? I should have put you, but but here it is coming up. We're working through the 7 stories of hope and who is approachable to Jesus. Well, there's a Pharisee who prayed that, I thank God I'm not like everybody else. I'm not like this other person, the tax collector. There's a tax collector who, and then the passage, the paragraph right after that, it's the disciples shooing away the children, and Jesus says, "Let the children come to me." So there's 3 people there. There's the Pharisee, which I equate the Pharisee in the Bible. Every time I read Pharisees, I think the good old Southern boy who goes to church that is full of religion and not Jesus, who compares himself to everybody else and props themselves up to feel better, who gives because they want people to see how much they give and how much they serve and all these other things without a relationship with Jesus altogether. Those are the Pharisees. The Pharisee says, at least I'm not like the tax collector. Well, the tax collector is a normal person who is hired by the enemy. The Jews at the time were the people that Jesus was Jews and Gentiles that Jesus was ministering to, but it was the tax collectors were Jews who were hired to work for the Roman government. So they were public enemy number one who disowned their own people to squeeze every dollar amount that they could out of the people to pay their taxes and a little bit extra to get their wage. You read in that passage in Luke chapter 18, verses 7 through 19, I believe. I don't have it in front of me, but going off of memory. The Pharisee comes to Jesus and he says that, thank God I'm not like this other person, the tax collector. The tax collector is beating his chest and say, God, have mercy on me. Proving that he needs Jesus also. In the paragraph after that, the little children are coming to Jesus, and the disciples were pushing the children away, thinking that Jesus' time was not worthy of them. And Jesus says, do not ever push anybody with childlike faith away from me. So that's a calling that we have, is to work with everybody and I think everybody in the world can fit in those three people that they think they have it all together. The people who are working with impure motives, and the people who, like Elise this morning, I was walking my daughter to the bus this morning, and this is day 3 of kindergarten, and got on the bus on day 2, which is a miracle, on the way to school. And she got in a fight with her sister who's in 3rd grade. And along the way, like sullen, straight face, was not looking at anybody, but had a death grip on my hand all the way down to the bus. I said, what's going on, babe? She's like, I don't want to talk about it. I said, okay. I said, well, you know that you can tell Daddy anything, right? But I can't read minds. And she said, yeah, I know. And you can't read minds, but I know who can. I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, well, God can read my mind. I said, yeah, babe, you're not wrong. He can read your mind. And it's those three, the Pharisee, of the tax collector, and of the little kids. It's a childlike faith. It's a theology of a kindergartner that we dismiss so many times, and that we want to bring about to help teenagers and moms and dads and athletes and coaches understand about Jesus, that we don't have to have it all put together. Right. We don't all have to be perfect. We all have mistakes. We all have past sins. We all have current sins, and they don't disqualify us. And so with that said, you have said FCA has been part of your life since 7th grade.
Right.
And me coming on staff with the FCA, you said, I want to get involved. I want to help you. I want to pioneer this in Cabot and what it looks like. And tried different schools and trying to get involved. But you have adopted and taken on the challenge of Cabot Freshman Academy.
Yes.
So walk us through that. How did you end up there, and what is just some things that have come from that?
Man, what's really cool now is seeing kind of God's plan of where we're at. I guess I've been there almost 3 years now, Freshman Academy. Maybe 3.5 years. I didn't even realize I was going to be doing a church plant inside the Freshman Academy walls either until about 2.5, 3 years ago. So that's a whole different conversation. But
it wasn't by chance.
No. God had a plan.
Open the door for more ministry by serving in a non-church ministry to open the doors for church ministry.
Absolutely. So what's cool.
Or parachurch, not non-church, just parachurch. Sorry.
Yes. It's all good. So one of my other youth minister buddies said, well, first of all, I got back into FCA 2020. It's one of the first things that opened the door to schools. That's how I met Josh. Yeah. Heard rumor that FCA was letting us in, so I contacted Josh and said, "Let's do this." So started doing stuff different campuses, and then I can't remember if Addison contacted me. You contacted me. Somehow I found out about Freshman Academy needing some help. So kind of walked in, and at first the coach that was in charge of it was kind of standoffish, like, "I don't know who you are," and it took like almost 2 months until they kind of trusted me. Maybe over a year. I don't know, but it took a little bit for Coach Westbrook and I to really connect. So, which is fine. You know, she is so guarded of her kids, and she loves them so much. Yeah. She's not going to let anyone just walk into where they want to, which is great. And so kind of my first year there, I kind of watched her, another coach, and Addison, one of the youth pastors time. Now he's out of state. But they were having conversations with kids, and like all as a big group at first, and about midway through that year, like, man, what would happen if we like broke this into huddles, like their actual sports? and that really changed everything.
Okay, hold on. So,
Okay.
For those of you who are not familiar, in Cabot, there's 2 junior highs, 7th and 8th grade junior highs, and all the 9th grade used to be on the high school campus. They made their own campus. It's a freshman academy. So they're funneling them into the high school. So there's 2 9th grades underneath the same roof.
Yes.
And 2 9th grades worth of sports teams.
Right.
That operate and compete against each other, but are in classes together underneath the same roof.
Yeah. It gets interesting.
Yeah, it's a crazy dynamic. It works somehow. I don't know, but
yes.
And I think one of the ways that it works is because of FCA during the middle of the week, making them see that their competition is not against the other person, but they get to work on 2 separate teams for the same team.
Right. Yes. I agree.
You know, it builds unity. There's some diversity there but they're all in classes together. So you get to talk over about you're Cabot North, you're Cabot South, 9th grade, but here together, we're all the same team.
Right.
Same together. So I just want to put a sidebar in here. We talk about there's different ways to do huddle ministry. There is not a right way and there is not a wrong way. Whatever way works, that's what you need to do. But every culture is different. You got to figure out what works on each campus culture. So you talked about house ministry, house huddle.
Yes.
So is that because you weren't allowed to be on campus?
No. So we did a house huddle when I was in high school.
Yeah.
And when Sheridan School District is kind of split up into I think it's like the 3rd or 2nd largest like square footage school district in the state. It's massive. It's all Grant County and a little bit of Saline County. So maybe even parts of southern part of Pulaski. Like it's huge.
Oh, so you're talking about the footprint of the school district?
Yes, the footprint of the school district is massive.
Gotcha.
I mean, we still were a 5A school at the time, so there's still a lot of students, but it's so big that there's the East End, which is north part, and Sheridan, which is the south. We all went to Sheridan, but it was so big that we even had school buses transport us between East End and Sheridan for practice and after school. I mean, it was a 25-minute drive on a school bus on a straight line down a highway just to get from East End Elementary to where we got picked up to Sheridan High School.
Wow.
There's a big distance here.
Yeah.
And because of that, a lot of us athletes, we'd have practice. We couldn't go home and shower and do anything else in town in Sheridan because we all lived 25, 30 minutes away. So instead of doing FCA in the middle of the day, we started doing FCA at night. And we did it. I called my parents this morning, like, did we do that once a month or every other week? I couldn't remember. But we started doing that at night in homes, all sports combined. So There was some huddle talk and different things, like a big group that might be during lunch, like that, in Sheridan. But for all the students that lived on the north side of town, we started a huddle, and we just met, and we'd range 20 to 40 kids. We'd have whoever hosted us in their home. They cooked dinner for us. We'd have dinner. We'd have a Devo. It was neat. And every single week, different kids led, and that was kind of a spark for a lot of us that went in ministry in a lot of different ways.
Wow. So what year was that?
That was 2006 and 2007.
Okay. Wow. It'd be great for our teammates in Saline County and Grant County to hear those stories and plug them into the podcast to carry on this greater story that they may not even know. So
absolutely.
That's awesome. So there's house ministry like you talked about. We do team-based huddles with different teams. We get plugged in: baseball, volleyball, football, basketball, wrestling. Whichever coach will have us come in to speak to their team. Side note, there was a huddle started yesterday in Stuttgart with a band. 80 band students all in the same room, and he uses the character development study we do for athletes for the band students.
That's really cool
because they get to influence Friday night, and they're involved with everything on Friday night, and the tempo of the game and the entertainment and the momentum of the game oftentimes goes through the band. So
that's great.
Band director caught word of it and was like, hey, you want to come in for 5 to 10 minutes? So we have a youth pastor there who's more in the lane. He worked with FCA, got us going on campus there last year. And he's like, hey, I think my natural space is more of the band students. I'm like, Okay. And so a captive audience of 80 kids, and went in and did a character study on boldness and how to have a boldness for Jesus Christ during the middle of the school day at 11:15 right before lunch. And pretty awesome. Pretty cool.
It is.
All that to say, I don't think that would be possible without being faithful to the ministry model of Fellowship of Christian Athletes, because we've done well with reaching and leading and investing in Christian and athletes and coaches. It opens a door for the areas of ministry.
Right.
And people like, we operate as a team. Why can't we do that here? Like,
True.
You can't, but just I haven't been able to think about that. But now that you bring the question, let's figure that out. So team-based huddles, sport-specific huddle, multi-sport huddle, which is what you were talking about. It used to be at Freshman Academy, having a multi-sport huddle, shoving everybody in the bleachers.
Right.
On one side of the gym. How many people?
Between 125 and 175.
125 and 175 at that time.
Right.
It's grown since then.
It is. Yeah. So right now, we haven't done our club rush, what's called, yet, but like last year we had 228, I think, start the year, and
228 ninth graders.
Yes.
In the same room at the same time.
Out of like 800. So
can you imagine the attitude and the personalities and the testosterone and estrogen flowing through that place?
Yes.
If you're listening, I need you to imagine that, what it's like in your own home if you have teenagers. If you have one, multiply that by 228. Okay. All right.
Yes.
And how much they need Jesus during that time. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things. We saw this huge group, and we were trying to talk to them. And a couple of things very quickly we discovered is you can't actually have like any conversation with that big a group. Like you could teach them something, you could say stuff out loud, but you couldn't have any conversations. So, we started breaking them into huddles and started saying, all right, football players here, basketball, tennis, baseball, outdoor sports, all different groups. In huddle groups, I think between 13 to 18 each year. Since we started doing that style, we've been using the Bible app, and that way every single week the kids, they have their phone, everyone can follow along. Every student, we have huddle leaders. We train them once a month. We pull them in, feed them nachos, pizza, whatever. We do a training each month of how to lead a small group, because it's not just talking to your buddies. Like, you have to keep them on cue. Hey, Focus in. And that's been kind of our deal. We use there's a lot of
so in
FCA
doing
Bible
that,
studies.
you don't just make that decision on your own. You are networking with local youth ministers to figure out who the people are in their student ministries.
Yes,
that can lead spiritual conversations on campus.
Right.
That are ninth graders.
Yes.
Which a lot of times, if we're honest in student ministry, we don't look. It's about the age we start looking for leaders, but don't give them a lot of leash or a lot of rope to run with, to do ministry with.
Right.
But that's what we're looking for as a place to start and give them ownership and roll with it. One thing that we did in Cabot, one thing that I did, since that's where we live, and I've been in student ministry there from 2011, 2017, come on with FCA, just start where you are, is how do you grow the ministry? Well, you grow the ministry where the most people are. We could go to the high school, go to the junior high, but we had to pick a spot. Where do you start? So we started in the ninth grade and figured out how to tinker and twist. And this didn't work, or this worked. Let's add this. Let's not do that. And eventually just it's our E3 process. We engaged and we built relationships and we are equipping people, and now we're empowering them to do it.
Absolutely.
And it's growing.
It is.
It didn't back off.
Well, what's cool is it's not about, to us, our goal is not for it to grow in ninth grade. Our goal is for them to continue on into high school. Because the way Cabot High School is set up, different periods, where the lunchroom is, where the cafeteria, like the lobby, when the athletic periods are. Some groups practice at 6 a.m, some practice at 6 p.m. Like, it is hard to have a large group FCA huddle at Cabot High School. But what we've seen is all these teams are having small huddles. Like, I'm helping start a tennis huddle this next Friday. And
tomorrow?
No, second Friday is school, so it'll be next Friday.
Yeah.
So
it'll be the Friday after this airs on Monday. So what's that date? What date are you starting the huddle?
The 22nd.
Okay.
There you go.
You already knew that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that, just because we get to see and train these students how to lead a huddle as ninth graders and say, it's cool to be in a huddle just with your sport buddies.
Yep.
And when they get to high school and there's huddles going in their groups, they're also not afraid to speak up. They're comfortable with it already. So we don't want to teach them for 1 year. Our goal is to send them off to keep growing in different areas.
So to correct your math, 2020 we weren't on campus. We're on campus in 2021.
Oh, sounds good. 2021.
Because those that were at Freshman Academy during 2021 are now seniors.
Oh, all right.
So there's been four cycles of freshmen being trained how to be missionaries to live out their faith on campus that are now seniors on their sports teams if they're still playing.
Yes.
So that was our goal, is to build a farm team. Like, all right, if we can reach them in 9th grade, train them how to be a leader of a small group, and then send them out, commission them to be missionaries for their sports team, to live on faith with the teams that they end up on if they still continue. If not, then it's not for naught, but it's opportunity to build into their student ministry or their school classroom or their hallway or their friend group or whatever activity that they're involved in, how to live on mission for Jesus.
Yeah.
So if you think about that, we have 10th, 11th, and 12th graders locked and loaded for every sports team at Cabot High School right now.
Right. They've done it. They've done the Bible app. They know how to lead a huddle. Because even if the leader, it's good because you don't actually even have to have a leader in the huddle because they've all done it. Because they've all asked the same questions. They've all done those things.
So overwhelming and exciting at the same time. Just to sit there and think about who all has come through, because it started off 120 to 175, and you go all the way up to 228 on a weekly basis. It's now in a team-specific huddle with their peers, leading Bible study, and they lead 9th grade. They get on JV and varsity at the high school campus.
Right.
It's like they're hiding in plain sight, like I'm thinking of a spy movie where they have agents everywhere and they just like Beekeeper.
Yes.
Now they have them ready to just be mobilized, but it's then our job now to re-engage them and empower them to reach and lead their team.
Well, and you don't even stop thinking about just sports. Because like one of our freshmen last year, so in our youth group, one of my favorite things to do is our summer internship. So youth come and intern with me, learn about ministry and do different things. Well, one of the students that helped lead his huddle all year is now one of my summer interns, and now is going to be a sophomore in high school. So there was a huge transition to that point. Of course, last year and a half, he was also like baptized and all these different things were happening. But in a couple of weeks, he'll also be leading a ministry. He'll also be leading, not ministry, he'll be leading the lesson at youth. So now he's impacting people that aren't even athletes. So it's reaching further than just our athletes and huddles. It starts reaching those adults, which here's the thing. Like there's a guy that works for a software company in Little Rock, and he's his root group leader. So he has seen him be fruitful, which impacts him, which then impacts one of the largest software companies here in Little Rock. So then it starts impacting all of his coworkers. Like it doesn't just.
Whoa. So you're telling me that he was trained at FCA on a high school campus in partnership with a local church, which is impacting his root group, or I guess that's his small group leader.
Right.
And growing that small group leader's faith, which has impacted and influenced his workforce?
Which has impacted his workforce. Well, that leader has him and I together. We read the Bible in 2.5 months, and now we're going through the whole Bible again in a year. So, and that leader has a network, not just in America, but they also have a company in Portugal too. So it's spreading across the world, all through these single conversations and these leaders and athletes. Yeah, it doesn't just stop in Cabot, buddy. It spreads.
That blows my mind. So overwhelmed. God does crazy things through flawed people, and never thought that would be the end result. And there's more stories like that.
Absolutely.
Thankful for your service, for your commitment to Freshman Academy, to investing in the coaches that are there, the Christian coaches that are on campus that help host the huddle, that the training, the work that you do, that's tireless behind the scenes, conversations you have with students. just super grateful and thankful for that. So your student ministry is busy.
Yes.
At church, you wear many hats at church. How in the world do you find time to show up to a school campus during the week?
Good question. Our weekly,
why do you do it?
Yeah. I'll say this: our local church believes in FCA enough that as a staff, we plan our staffing around FCA every week. So like our church staff makes sure I can be at the freshman academy on Wednesdays no matter what. And like we changed our staff time and now it's on Tuesdays. Like it doesn't interfere. Like as a church, we make it important. So, but I think you also asked, why do I go to FCA?
Yeah. Why show up?
Man. Cause that's what got me to where I'm at when I was their age. Having that positive influence as a coach, as a student pastor, helped me get through life, helped me make those decisions. And a lot of these athletes don't have any church, don't have any faith conversations, don't have any positive, even male mentors in some ways besides their coaches. So adding them to a large group of other Christians makes them feel like they're not by themselves either. Like there's a group, and talking about those little huddles, we do the Bible streaks through the Bible app.
Used to.
Yeah. And, yeah.
You can't do that anymore.
No.
New legislation in Arkansas is no cell from bell to bell. So it's changing how we do huddle ministry and access to the Bible, and can't use cell phones. So we're navigating that, trying to figure all that out. And now I guess they'll actually have to read a physical Bible in their hands or a copy of it which is not, I don't see it as a negative.
No, I think it's going to be great. I'm excited about it.
It's just different.
Yeah. I mean, we're a church plant. We're already mobile. So we expect every week the technology to fail just because. So when I found out, like Coach Westbrook and I had conversations, like, what are we going to do? We've done the Bible app for 3 years. I was like, we don't need it. We have the Discovery Bible plan. And I printed off one sheet and I was like, this is it. It's simple. Same 8 questions. All you need is a scripture. We can print it off, or we can encourage our athletes to bring their Bible to school on Wednesdays.
Yeah.
So now,
if they've been to FCA camp in 7th and 8th grade and 9th grade, every time you go to FCA camp, you get an FCA athlete's Bible.
Right.
So if they've already been to camp, then they already have that. So that's less people that you have to worry about.
Yes.
They should have access to it if they didn't donate it to Goodwill or give it away to their church or whatever. But so that's I didn't even thought about that. That's awesome.
Yeah. But think about this though. We have 200 students in FCA.
Yeah.
So imagine every Wednesday there's 200 Bibles and backpacks on campus as well.
Yeah.
Even if we just encourage them to bring them one day a week.
Yeah.
It makes a big difference, even with that.
That's right. That's so good. You've been actively involved in what we do with Fields of Faith.
Right.
Your church has been a big supporter of that. You've been a great person of peace to open the doors for their student ministries to come get involved. You've seen some things happen in your church ministry because of Fields of Faith.
Right.
So if you were, as a student pastor, how would you encourage other youth pastors who may not be opposed, but they're not totally open to stopping their Wednesday night activities and showing up to an event on a public worship space where the church gets to gather outside underneath the stars,
right,
and the big lights,
for
the world to see and proclaim their love for Jesus? What would you say to them as to why they need to consider coming to Fields of Faith, and how have you seen that impact play out inside your ministry?
And I think there's power in numbers. I think when all of a sudden you open up your youth's eyes to knowing that there is more than just 15 kids in the city of Cabot, if you go to a small church, that are Christians. And all of a sudden you walk into a field and there's 1,500 teenagers and 500 adults that also believe in Jesus. And you're like, whoa, I thought I was the only one listening to Christian music in town. I thought I was the only one doing these kind of things. Yeah. And all of a sudden you're not. And that is eye-opening to these students. And I think very encouraging, because it is hard. Culture makes it hard sometimes to do stuff. But all of a sudden you find connections, you find network. Because as a youth minister, man, if you don't ever ask other youth ministers for advice, if you don't ever connect with other ones, it is going to be hard. And there's going to be hard decisions to be made. And you're like, how did you handle this when this happened to you? If you don't have those buddies, you're going to get burned out. You need a network. You need a connection. So
I appreciate you sharing that and saying that. So one story, we're getting close to wrapping up here. Yeah, that's right. what is one story from Fields of Faith of life change that has, you could share two real fast.
Okay.
If you can do it real fast. Two stories of how a night on a Wednesday night on a football field has impacted your student ministry.
Gotcha. I'm going to tell one personal family story and then one about church-wide, how it's impacted things. So the first one, there's a kid named Casper that came to Fields of Faith. He'd been moved to Cabot, been there for like 2 weeks, and he filled out a card, like I've accepted Christ. Here's my phone number. I reached out to him. All of us youth ministers kind of drew names of kids that didn't have anywhere to go.
Yep. I
reached out to him, called him, nothing. And about a month later, he walked into our church building. We do like an after-school ministry. He walked in, and I said, "Hey, Casper, it's good to finally meet you." And he's like, "What?" And I said, "I reached out to you a couple of weeks ago." And he pulled his phone. I was like, "You're this person." I said, "Yes, I am." And I was like, "Who else do you know here?" He's like, "Well, that kid's in my class." And he said he's going to church. I just followed him. I don't really know him. I was like, "Well, now you know me." And through that, so that's like an 8th grade. Eventually his sister came to church. Eventually his dad came to church. Like affected the whole family long-term from one text message, from one decision made at Fields of Faith. Another thing, at our church, we go through confirmation. So there's a lot of kids go through confirmation class in 7th grade, and a lot of students get baptized around that time frame. But if a student moves in or different things, we don't really have baptism talks very often, which we need to. They're all through the Bible.
Yep. And
so now, because of Fields of Faith, there's always a lot of students that have a lot of questions after that big group meeting of what are they talking about, what are they saying. We started doing baptism nights every 5th Wednesday. Which is cool, doing baptisms in a school courtyard.
Baptism night in student ministry in the courtyard of a school.
Yes.
Okay.
It's neat. And so that kind of started our own new church tradition of saying, let's have more conversations about what baptism is. What does it mean to accept our faith? Besides just when they're in 7th grade. Like, let's start asking these questions at all these ages, a whole lot more. So that even changed our mindset at our church of having the conversations that we're having and what our thoughts are in discipleship. So that was kind of cool. So there's 2 ways, one church-wide and one is in a personal family situation.
Yeah, it's really cool. And not to toot our own horn, there's other examples like that all around the world. But we do Fields of Faith as an opportunity to be a benefit to local churches. So there's stories like this. There's more stories like this than we can tell of life change, people accepting Jesus as their Lord and Savior, getting plugged into a local congregation, being baptized on a school campus on the Wednesday night. It blows my mind, all the things that's happening through people faithful to serve like Jared. And like I said before, if you hear a story you want to connect, you can find us on Facebook, you can find us on Instagram, you can find us on our website. I can give you my personal cell phone number, 501-743-8857. Just reach out. Love to get you connected, whatever we can do. I don't have to be private or freely share, whatever I can do to help you, get you plugged in, connected. That's what we want to do. Jared, thanks so much for joining us today.
Absolutely.
Thanks for your insight, your wisdom, the stories to celebrate. We're super thankful for you. And if you want to be like Jared and want to get involved in ministry, reach out to us. Love to partner you along with a school or a huddle or a campus or a team and walk alongside of you and make Jesus famous on public and private school campuses all across Central Arkansas. That wraps us up for today. For Beyond the Huddle, Central Arkansas FCA podcast where faith meets competition. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next week.